Very nice.
Are we ready, Christina? Okay. We're going to call the meeting to order, 7:30. Roll call, Liam Johnston.
Here.
Tom Gravenino.
Here.
Lynn Colligan. Here. Lisa Kreckler here. Phil Giurio is excused. Also present, we have Timothy Hill, ZBA attorney. First order of business is to review and approve the March 18th, 2026 minutes. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, we have we have one resolution today. I'm getting some back feed from someone's computer. Thanks, Christina. Then I'm going to. We have one resolution today. We have 80 Cartwright Road, Ingrid Trust. Christina, are you able to give us a reading here?
Application by Pingree Irrevocable Trust for an area variance at 80 Cartwright Road, Shelter Island, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map 700-A-3-15. This is a type 2 action and no further secret review is required. The applicant is seeking to demolish an existing accessory structure and to construct a detached accessory structure with sleeping quarters. The applicant requests an area variance for relief from the requirements of the Town Code Section 133-7E3, which provides that the floor area of accessory sleeping quarters shall not be less than 480 square feet. Here, the floor area of the proposed sleeping quarters is 270 square feet. Accordingly, the proposal is deficient by 210 square feet, the tolerance of which is requested by the instant area variance application. And considering all of the factors and applying the balancing test under New York State Town Law 267-B, and applying the relevant section of the Town Code, the Zoning Board of Appeals approved the request for an area variance for relief from the requirements of the Town Code Section 133-7E3 to allow construction of the proposed accessory structure with sleeping quarters containing 270 square feet of floor area.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I do.
Okay, and we will do a roll call vote. William Johnston?
Yes.
Thomas Graffinino?
Yes.
Lisa Kreckler says yes. Lynn Colligan?
The wording of this, because I wasn't at the hearing.
You are at the hearing, so you can abstain.
Okay, I'll abstain.
Lynn
Thank
Colligan
you.
abstains. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we have two applications that we're going to be hearing today. And I know the agenda lists 44 Gardeners Bay Drive first, but we are actually going to start with 44 St. Mary's Road first. Christina, can you please read the notice?
Hearing on the application of Shelter Mary Property LLC, owner of 44 St. Mary's Road, Shelter Island, New York, which is located in Zone C and is more specifically described on the Suffolk County Tax Map at 700-15-4-4. The applicant seeks relief from the requirements of Town Code Section 133-10B6 to permit conversion of an existing unconditioned garage into a conditioned garage, resulting in a total of 14,155 square feet of living area, where 5,999 live.
And do we have any correspondence on this?
Yes. The correspondence in support of the application was received from Edward Brennan, 57 Peconic Avenue. Further correspondence was received from Rosemary Ryan of 19 Burns Road. And further letters of support were submitted by Jennifer Sullivan, 36 St. Mary's Road, Christian Clark, White Oaks Manor LLC of 29 St. Mary's Road, Susan and Darren Bender of 1 Burns Road, and Stephen Brown, 125 North Berry Road.
Thank you. And who is here to present?
Thank you. My name is John Bennett. Pleasure to be with you as always. Thank you very much for the opportunity to hear it. Beautiful law firm of Bennett Reed at 212 Lizzo Lane. Southampton, New York. With me this evening are the two project principals, Ken Trogan and Kate Lawson. I'm going to have them say a couple of words after my introductory remarks, and then I'll continue with both parts of my argument.
Could you speak up a little bit, Mr. Bennett,
I'm
please?
sorry. I apologize.
No, it's fine.
And Michael Ciano from InterScience Research Associates is here as well. So we're here regarding a garage that is nearing completion at 44 St. Mary's Road. I think, and we have, just so that you have a visual as what is there, I'm sure you've driven by it, but we're handing up photographs of the garage, which was taken today, along with a cross-section detail from the plans and the floor plans, just so that everybody can see what's there. This is a garage. Reduced to its essentials, the issue is climate control, heating and cooling of this legally constructed building. This building is under construction now. Building permit. It's hard to see respectfully how that sole fact, climate control, heating and cooling, can have a negative effect on the neighborhood. Merely introduced into this existing garage. The garage is legal in dimensions, legal in setbacks, and legal in coverage. The sole question before the board is whether the introduction of the HVA system into this garage affects the calculation of SFLA. At best, the code is ambiguous under proper rules of construction. We submit the code allows conditioned garages without requiring their inclusion in the SFLA. Candidly, the building inspector, because of the way the code was drafted, was left with a really unenviable task of trying to make sense of a poorly drafted code. I'm going to demonstrate the rules of construction, but I think yourself will be able to see that this was a poorly drafted code, and Reed Karen is a good faith, great building inspector. Was met with the really unenviable task of trying to make sense out of this code, which is just poor drafting. No question about it, as someone who's drafted a lot of municipal codes. So there are two arms to this application. One is the code interpretation argument regarding the code sections defining what goes into SFLA. And two, if necessary, is the variance application to allow, assuming that this building is being subject to the SFLA calculations, HVAC at the garage. We'll present them both. One thing I will probably repeat, excuse me if I do, is that what this building is and what it is not. This building is a garage, and a garage is a defined term under 133(1)B of the town code, which is, quote, an accessory building used by occupants of the principal building located on the same lot as the principal building, allowing storage of vehicles or other items without compensations of private property. This defined term is also important for the proper interpretation because it appears in the sentence which I'm going to talk about as a distinct word, a defined word. What is this not? It's not a house. It is not habitable space. Under any stretch of any regulations, this is not and there will not be any plumbing in the interior of the building, no bathrooms, no cooking, no sleeping. We'll covenant that. Not a problem at all. It does not meet the state code definition of a house. You can't sleep there, you can't cook there, there are no sanitary facilities. It's just storage, plain and simple. It's not a house nor an accessory structure with sleeping or cooking because you won't be able to do either. And I think that's really, really very important because you don't want people to stretch this if you're this sort of a case. There are a few closets, but it's an open floor plan. That's why I started out with not only a photo, but the floor plan. So essentially it's all open space with minimal finishes. And the minimal finishes are going to become important because of some colloquy and determinations that the building inspector initially made. And again, I'm not trying to sandbag the building inspector. I think he was struggling with a code that was just it's just doesn't work. Again, it meets the town code's definition of garage. The interpretation argument, which we'll talk about in a second, is the matter of calculation of the SFLA. And I'll just remind everybody that zoning laws are to be construed against the municipality. To say the least, the code is not sufficiently precise. Our reading is the garages are not prohibited from both being conditioned and being included in the SFLA. Just by the mere conditioning of it, you don't include it in the SFLA. But there was obvious trouble based upon the affidavits that have been submitted to you and based upon what we will present to you tonight. There was obvious trouble in defining the code limitations. Nevertheless, the code we submit as a matter of law, allow the introduction of HVAC in this building without the need for a variance. But again, we're going to present the variance arguments as well, which we trust you'll agree are strong. To be mild, there's been confusion about the regulation, and it was actually indisputably unfair that the building inspector was charged with interpreting the law. It was just not well drafted. But again, those ambiguities fall to the favor of the landowner. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a case out of the Supreme Court, Suffolk County, that came out of a sister zoning board of appeals on the East End, where the court said that the board properly took into consideration confusion about code definitions as buttressing a variance. So not only the interpretation, but the variance. But I just wanted the principals, Ken Tropin and Kate Lawson, to be able to speak, so you get to know them, see who they are, and they'll tell you that what their vision was for this property and is for this property. Ken, if you could come up and introduce yourself and give us your address.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ken Tropin. I live at 2 Sylvester Road in Shelter Island. I'm the principal owner of 44 St. Mary's Road on Shelter Island. And as you know, we're here requesting either a variance or code interpretation for conditioned space for the car garage at 44 St. Mary's Road. To give you a little background on myself, I've been coming to Shelter Island since 1983. And I've owned a home on the island since 1991. My partner, Kate Lawson, who is also here, and myself have been looking for several years to identify an appropriate property pretty close to where we live at 2 Sylvester Road in Durham Village to build a car garage, to store a classic car collection, and to build a home for my children and their my grandkids. To begin with, the location of 44 St. Mary's Road was pretty close to where we live in Durham Village, so it was appealing. Second of all, because it's a 9-acre lot, it was appealing because there was plenty of room to accomplish what I wanted to do. When we identified the property, we wanted to be sure that prior to closing on the property, I wanted to approach this in the most conservative manner and be very confident that what I wanted to build on the property was consistent and permissible by the building code for the district. With that in mind, and the advice of my attorney at that time, we hired InterScience, a land use consultant with considerable experience working with Shelter Island to perform an evaluation of the property with our building plans in mind so that I could be confident before closing that we could proceed and build within the code without any issue. I'm a very conservative person by nature, and I wanted to be sure that I could accomplish my building plans without a problem. Put differently, I didn't want to proceed and then hope this would be acceptable. InterScience was engaged, and they started to go through the procedures to evaluate and assess what could be done with the property, with the current building code for the area. As part of their process, they spoke and exchanged emails with the building department. After this, the final evaluation was that so long as the garage was just that, a garage with no bathroom, no sleeping quarters, no kitchen, and very minimal finishes, that we would be able to heat and air condition the space so that it is able to house classic car collection, their needs, which is they have to be in heated and conditioned space. Thereafter, we proceeded to close on the property and made plans to build the structure. And plans were approved by the building department and we began to develop the site as approved. After building commenced on the garage, an issue was flagged by the building department that perhaps the garage could not be heated and cooled, as was initially stated could be done. We received word of this from my architect and builder in November of 25. And at that time, the structure was about 70% complete. Following that, there was some time spent in limbo waiting for a definitive answer on this. And eventually we were issued a turn down letter from the building department that in fact we would need to seek relief in the form of a variance from the ZBA to be able to condition this space. So to sort of summarize, I would not have closed or proceeded to purchase this property if I hadn't received the advice from the land use consultant, InterScience, based on their interaction with the building department, that my plans were permissible and that I could build this car garage and a home for my kids. As a practical matter, because this property is so large, most potential buyers were developers who would subdivide it and build several large homes. That's not my intent. I want to express my appreciation to members of the ZBA for your time and for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, board. My name is Kay Lawson. I live at 2 Sylvester Road on Shelter Island. I'm president of Shelter Mary LLC, which owns 44 St. Mary's Road. We just heard from Ken Tropin about what brings us before you tonight. And we're requesting various heat and air condition a car garage at 44 St. Mary's Road. It was a property we carefully evaluated to achieve our objective, which was build a garage, store antique cars, and a house for our kids and grandkids to be able to use. Just for some additional background, I'm from Sag Harbor and I served on the planning board for 6 years and I was chair for 3. When I moved to Shelter Island, I immediately began serving on the architectural review board in Deering Village, as well as now in last year, the zoning board of appeals there. So from my experience on these boards, I can certainly appreciate and have a good understanding for the land use perspective that applies here. You just heard from Ken that we received an evaluation from InterScience, who relied in part on communications with the building department, that yes, in fact, we would be able to, within the code as it exists, build the 3 buildings and condition the spaces under the current code as interpreted by the building department at that time. That initial interpretation by the building department was relied on. That we could build the garage and condition the space so long as it had very basic finishes, no sleeping quarters, no bathrooms. This garage will only be used to store cars. It only has very basic finishes, no sleeping quarters, no bathrooms, no kitchen. The code is confusing at best, and this is further supported by the building department's initial interpretation of the code, and then the reversal of that initial interpretation, which is why we're before you tonight. As Mr. Bennett will say again in a minute, there are other factors that do support the granting of a variance. The size of the lot, it's a very large lot, the zone the lot's in, residential C zone, which specifically allows for accessory buildings, and that this space will only be used as a garage to store cars, and we will covenant that. So with all of these facts and arguments in mind, we respectfully ask that you grant our relief request. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do have one question for you, if that's okay. When you bring up, the initial interpretation from the building department was relied on, was that a conversation? Was there an email? What documentation do you have of that? And what was actually issued?
There's both conversations and there is emails, and Mr. Bennett will go into the details of all that, and I think it's all been submitted to you guys, so yeah.
It's been submitted, I'll go through this part, right?
Anything else?
Not at this point.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you guys so much.
So thank you, and thank you for bringing Ken, okay. The code section and issue, so I'm gonna talk just about the interpretation argument, and then the variance argument. The code section, Billy, if you wouldn't mind, the code section and issue and whether or not the code section includes restrictions on heating and cooling within garages is subject to certain interpretive maxims which give rise that one can heat a garage and not have included into the SFL. The section, which is hardly a model of drafting, does not include a garage within those structures that are required to be included in the SFLA if they're conditioned. The interpretive maxims regarding the location of words in the sentence is critical. So I'm going to read the code section in, and then I'm going to talk to you about not only interpretive maxims, but some case law that demonstrates how this should be interpreted. All the while remembering that zoning laws are to be interpreted against the municipality because they're in derogation of common law. So if there's any interpretation that would allow the HVAC without it being included in the SFLA, the law says that's the interpretation that's supposed to prevail. So code section 113-1B defines square foot living area, and it says also known as also known as SFLA, the square footage of heated and/or air-conditioned area within outer walls of all structures on a residential lot, not including an unfinished basement or attic, garage, punctuation, structure without heat or air conditioning. The language regarding heat or air conditioning specifically excludes garages based upon general rules of construction. Why? The qualifying without heat or air conditioning applies to structures which precedes without heat or air conditioning, not garages, which are specifically defined buildings within the code. At the beginning of all the New York laws, there's a book called McKinney's Statutes, and it explains the various doctrines of interpretation. And your counsel is aware of that one volume. It's called McKinney's Statute. But there's a doctrine known as the doctrine of last antecedent. And remember, these codes take away rights of common law, so they're to be construed against the municipality. What does that mean, rights at common law? At common law, you could do whatever the heck you want with your property, as long as there was the only thing that limited you under common law and how you could develop a property was the law of nuisance. But then in a Supreme Court case, it's the Euclid case, they said, no, zoning is okay, but it has to be strictly construed. So what does this doctrine of last antecedent mean? Relative and qualifying words, phrases, and clauses are to be applied to the words or phrases immediately preceding, in this case, the word structures, and are not to be construed as extending to or including other words. What that means is that the antecedent word, structure, is the only word that's modified without heat or air conditioning. There wouldn't be a need to put this defined term garages in there as a separate word unless it was meant to be included in the not including, because a garage is a structure. So why would the drafter have put a garage in there? And candidly, that may not have been in the drafter's mind, but that's the way you interpret it, because the laws are supposed to be construed against the municipality. There was a case, American International versus Bank of America Court. It's a 2013 case, and the Second Circuit Court explained, referential and qualifying words and phrases refer solely to the antecedent. One of the methods by which a writer indicates whether a modifier that follows a list of nouns or phrases is intended to modify the entire list or only the immediate antecedent. In other words, when I say the immediate antecedent, structures, is by punctuation, specifically by whether the list is separated from the subsequent modifier by a comma. When there is no comma, there's no comma here, as in the statute considered before us, the subsequent modifier is understood only to apply to the last antecedent. Thus, without heat or air applies only to structures but not garage. Now, that's not a lawyer's fancy argument. It's a rule of construction. If the town meant to say garages that were heated, it should have said that, but it didn't say that. It excluded certain items, including garages, and then it put in after that. After they put it out, it said structures without heat or air. Sloppy drafting, maybe. We tried to do some legislative research on it, and the only thing we came up with when what's his name? He was a great guy. His dad was the pro, and he was the town attorney. Bob DiStefano amended it back some years ago and added the word, I think he added the word air conditioning, but didn't change the punctuation, the structure of it either. And then we submitted an affidavit of Mike Shiano. It's filed as part of the application. The building inspector's final position interpretation on whether an unfinished garage without any sleeping or cooking was based solely on reason of the climate control. And this interpretation appears to have changed over the course of conversations and meetings with the building department. They had initially taken the position that the proposal did not impact SFLA. This demonstrates the inherent ambiguity of the statute. So, included in the affidavit of Mike Shiano, and I'm not jumping on Reed here. He was given an impossible task as far as I'm concerned, knowing what he knows about, where these limits on SFLA were meant to be, how they were meant to be interpreted. But we did receive an email from Reed where he stated, if you want to condition it, then it cannot be finished. It's not going to be finished. Meaning no trim, there's no trim, no decorative lighting, only bulbs for the most basic functional lighting. I think we have some cut sheets for the lighting specs. No paneling, no decorative flooring. It has to be purely utilitarian. It has to be a storage garage. That's all we want. No water, no bathrooms, no cooking, no sleeping, none of that stuff. So the building is not a finished building. It has no trim, no decorative lighting, no paneling, no decorative flooring. It's a purely utilitarian storage garage. And why I'm emphasizing those terms is I'm simply parroting Reed's email, which is contained in Mike Shiano's affidavit. Do we have an exhibit number for that? See? That's Reed's email. Zoning codes being a derogation of common law must be strictly construed against the enacting municipality and in favor of the property owner. Ambiguities, if any, are to be resolved in favor of the property owner. Again, the existing building falls squarely within the definition of garage to be used solely by the occupants of the principal building for the storage of vehicles. It was designed to be unfinished space, and tracking what the building department said in that email, minimal trim, concrete floors, utilitarian. And again, finally, the antecedent words without heat or air conditioning modify only the word structure. This is proper construction. It doesn't really matter what the drafter meant if the drafting is improper for the finding that the heat or air conditioning makes the building have to be included in the SFLA. This is proper construction, what we're urging. Again, there would be no need to separately include the word garage, since that is a structure, unless it was to be treated separately in the sentence that it's a garage and not a structure is modified. Is the modifying language without heat or air conditioning pertains only to the antecedent. But
I'm an English teacher, so I'm giving your antecedent and punctuation argument. So you would prefer that there had been a comma after the S in garages?
Well, if there'd been a comma, then it would have, the modifying heat or air conditioning would have included all of those.
I'm just trying to understand your
Yeah,
argument with regard to the
Yeah,
comma.
that would have included, that's exactly right, yeah. But there is no comma.
So does it please you that there's no comma, or does it displease you that there's no comma?
It doesn't please me or displease me. The absence of it means that you have to interpret it so that without heating or air conditioning modifies only structure but not garage.
Okay, but as read, it says garage structure.
Well, garage is that's, you don't assume that.
I'm just trying to
Yeah,
become
no,
clear on what you're
You don't
saying.
assume that somebody's going to put a superfluous and unnecessary word there. Since a garage is a structure, why put a separate word garage in there?
Okay, but as read, there is no comma, so you're
Well,
saying
that's
that,
helpful to me.
I'm sorry?
That's helpful to me.
Okay.
Under those interpretive maxims and the case law.
Yes, okay, just want to be clear on that.
It's interesting that you say that because the first thing I said when I looked at this statute, and it says that, sorry, I said, Billy, you're a Hamilton College English major. Come help me with the commas, the lack of
Two
them.
commas. There should be two. You'd like heating or air conditioning to apply to every area within that definition. It should be unfinished basements, comma, garages, comma, and then structures. So pool houses, like pavilions by tennis courts, those, as long as they were unheated, would be excluded. But if they were heated, then they would need to be included. The
Okay.
existing two commas.
Okay, but the argument is hanging on the absence or presence of comments. Thank you.
But I think you got my point.
I have your point now. Thank you.
Let me go to the variance argument because I think it's very compelling.
Are you still talking about lighting and finishes? Because I do have a question about that.
Sure.
Oh, sure.
Okay, because we were on site, we visited the site earlier in the week. I wouldn't consider the high-end industrial lighting utilitarian, nor would I consider the Vermont post and beam construction or the polished concrete. It is basic, but it's very high-end and modern and in fashion right now. So it is utilitarian, but it is very polished in that it could be a welcoming space for gatherings. And I'm not implying that you intend to hold gatherings, but we did look at what you're calling utilitarian lighting, and it isn't. It's high-end industrial lighting, a polished concrete floor, and a custom post and beam Vermont construction doesn't look very much like a garage. It looks like could be a beautiful gathering space or a home. Not that it will be.
No.
But I'm just trying to say that your interpretation of what utilitarian lighting is, we didn't get that feeling when we visited.
Garage floors, polished concrete. My brother-in-law is lucky enough to own 3 Ferraris, and he keeps them in his garage in Garden City. And the floor of the garage, you could eat off it. It doesn't change the fact that it's still a garage and there's no habitable space in there. I don't know, by dressing up post and beam construction, which is a matter of choice, that it changes the function of it. And I think really what Reed was going at, when he had that initial interpretation, it can't be anything that's going to lend itself to somebody being tempted to inhabit it.
I mean, it is pristine and it looks habitable to us. I have a question about the.
But again, we're covenant against no cooking.
Yes, no, I understand that.
And it's not going to be any interior water. So
Yes.
you'd have a gathering, I don't know where people would go to the bathroom.
And what would be the function of the upper spaces, the
loft.
Well,
loft spaces?
It's storage of automobile parts.
Okay.
And the definition of the garage also states that it's for storage of automobiles and other items. So
Okay.
as Mr. Tropin explained to me, a lot of these classic cars come with replacement parts, sometimes engines and certain items of the car are swapped out, but the original parts are kept, and that preserves the integrity of.
So it's exclusively for automobile parks?
Exclusively for.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So with that, with your permission, I'll roll into the variance argument. So, which is again to permit the existing garage to be heated and air conditioned, which we submit will have no impact on the character of the neighborhood, for which there is significant neighborhood support, as demonstrated by the letters that were previously submitted with the board. The garage has 5,792 square feet of conditioned space within the first floor and second floor lofts, which are open to the floor below, totaling 2,430 for a total of 8,134 square feet. Now, this is relief. I'm going to talk about some of the relief that my firm has been able to obtain when the town board did this work. In other words, allowing for housing over 5,999 square feet. But in every one of them, the request was for more actually habitable space, and they granted it. That's not what you have here at all. This is something a little bit closer to, I think, over Pandion, where you allowed an accessory space and said it could be heated. But I think that's the first application you guys handled for a space over 500.
That was during the moratorium. Yeah, those were extenuating circumstances.
That was a basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Storage lofts are open spaces, not enclosed rooms, and again, only for storage. And with the exception of a few corner storage closets, this entire structure is a single open space with the storage loft above. There's an under construction principal residence on the property, which is 5,222 square feet, and a gatehouse containing 752 square feet of living area. You can see that the main house, the 5,200 and change main house, it's pretty much just the foundation there. The gatehouse, you can see it's up. So what you have under construction is the garage, what we're calling the gatehouse, and the main residence. We submitted correspondence dated March 19th, 2026, which included the affidavit of Anthony Serra, an expert in storage and maintenance of vehicles. Mr. Serra is familiar with Mr. Trobin's vehicle collection, and as explained by Mr. Serra, due to the age and historical significance of the car collection, there are certain climate control and humidity control requirements to maintain the condition of the vehicles. And I think it's helpful to quote this, Mr. Serra's affidavit. I'm familiar with the applicant's vehicle collection. Due to the age and historical significance of the applicant's collection, there are certain climate control, humidity control requirements to maintain the condition. Climate control storage with stable temperatures of 55 degrees to 71 degrees, and humidity control providing 40 to 47% humidity is necessary to maintain the vehicles and avoid costly repairs. Climate control storage reduces the risk of rust by up to 90%, extends the interior lifespan by up to 50%, and preserves paint and mechanical parts. As the board is aware, the town previously required property owners seeking to construct more than 5,909 square SFLA to seek a permit from the town board. So we do have copies, which I'll ask Kelly to submit, of those prior decisions. And I think exception one, I think confirmed and all of the I'll just take you through those. That's what we're trying to look at, is how your sister board, the trustees, handle these applications, because I don't think there's a lot of precedence at all for this board, other than the one they handled during the moratorium. So in the matter of Harris, that was down at the end of Bootleggers. It was originally owned by client of ours, Lakian. There were two parcels at 6 Bootleggers Alley and 3 Nostrum Parkway, and a special permit was granted for 11,000 SFLA on a 3.1 acre lot located in the AA zone, slightly less than twice the permitted SFLA was permitted on a property smaller than the 2 times required lot under zoning. And again, that was for, I handled the application, that was for 11,000 square feet of living area on a 3.1 acre lot, and it was all habitable space. So you could live there, you could sleep there, you could cook there, you could go to the bathroom there, excuse me. And the reason I say that is because it's pretty significant. No plumbing, no plumbing. That was a long and hard discussion. And with the client, it's like, never see my car collection. There's a friend coming over, gotta go back to the house, go to the bathroom. I said, we have to let the board know and give the board all assurances that this is not going to become habitable space. So there's no interior water, zero. No plumbing at all. But again, in Harris, the town board gave 11,000 SFLA for 3.1 acre lot. 42 Gardeners Bay, which is again, I think we can all that, isn't that David Warren? Yeah. 10,779 SFLA was permitted on the property of about 300,000 square feet in size. It was 2-lot yield on the property, and almost twice the permitted SFLA was permitted on the property to support 2 buildable lots. We covenanted against any further subdivision. Because the whole idea is if you want the additional SFLA, which is the same thing that happened in the Harris, previously Lakeland property. Look, I want, pretty much twice the SFLA I could have, but I'm going to give up a lot. So net, I'm not gaining anything here in terms of the SFLA.
Is your applicant willing to do that as well?
We, right in the record, we said this is 6, like Shannon was here, we've demonstrated a 6-lot yield. We would covenant that would never be subdivided more than 4 lots. It's a 6-lot yield, never be subdivided more than 4 lots, and we'll covenant that this building will always be accessory. So really the only way, covenanting 4 lots, really the only way you could get there is essentially to do 3, because you'd have to marry this accessory structure to one of those lots. If I'm saying I'll never do more than 4 lots, but I want to keep this structure, I'm really going to have to marry it to one of the other lots. So really, you're at an effective yield of 3. And as Ken and Kay don't have any intention to do that, but I said, you can't. You have to assure the board that you're giving up density, because that was been the pattern in the past, and that that density is going to be. I mean, you could subdivide the property into 6 lots, and those lots would have the 5,909 square foot houses. I think it's a great opportunity to limit the potential subdivision there.
But they're still looking, they wouldn't want the ultimatum of no further subdivision. They're looking to still be able to do 3.
3.
Okay.
And I said 4, but in thinking about it,
Yeah, no,
it's got to be 3 because I've got to marry one of those lots to the accessory structure that I'm getting the variance for. So 3, no more than 3 lots ever. And that's, we put that in the covenant, not a problem.
Okay.
And again, there's no intention to do that.
No, I think
But never
that's
say
something,
never.
that's definitely something that, this board has, looked at and has done in the past. So
Yeah.
it's something that it's worth a discussion.
Yeah, no, I think it's a generous give back, if I may. I mean, we're asking for relief, but so we have to demonstrate that net, you're actually going to come up with less SFLA than if it was traditionally developed. So,
Yep, great, thank you.
and then in the matter of Borthwick, there's a 10,303 square feet was permitted on 1.264 acres. And the applicant was going to merge the 2 improved parcels to permit the construction. So again, that give back of density. And in Greenwald, you approved a variance to permit the air conditioning of an existing accessory building. The board recognized the property was oversized. That property was 3.3 acres. I think he gave like somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 square feet of relief. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to overstate it, but I think it was 1,500 or 1,400. So I think that's the only time you folks have looked at it. So this property is significantly oversized. It's 8.119 acres in size and located within the C zoning district, which requires a minimum of 40,000 square feet. Mike submitted a yield plan, just demonstrated capable of 6 lots. We talked about all this. He essentially is capable of 4 lot yield, but again, really it's 3 because you have to marry one of the lots to this accessory garage. The zoning district requires a minimum setback of 30 feet. Here the garage is located 75.7 feet from Ram Island Road, more than double the front yard setback. We've already planted trees to provide vegetative screening. A copy of the landscape plan was submitted, and the applicant intends to further supplement the existing landscape screening, particularly along the Ram Island Road frontage. The width of the vegetative screening is between 30 and 50 feet. Again, the garage as it exists now is fully permitted. It complies with the height requirements and greatly exceeds setback requirements. The property overall complies with the lot coverage requirements. It's only the request for the conditioning the space. It's in the now existing structure that is before the board. We also submitted letters of support. I think they were written out, but just to make sure that everyone's aware of them, we mapped the location of the property owners owned by the individuals who provided letters showing the proximity to the property. It was Jennifer Sullivan at 36 St. Mary's Road, Christian Clark at White Oak Manor, Susan and Darren Binder at One Burns Road, Stephen Schramm at 125 North Ferry, Rosemary Ryan. Sullivan and Ryan are abutting property owners. And we humbly submit that the letters of support demonstrate a lack of impact on the character of the neighborhood. And that's, the authority on that is Dolphin versus Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Shelter Island. A case that I handled some years ago. There was a variance requested and the neighbors had all letters of support, and the variance was denied. We commenced an action. And one of the things that the court said, and was affirmed by the appellate division, says that's a pretty good indicia. There's no impact on the character of the neighborhood if the neighbors are in support. Again, the structure's already there. It's well screened through landscaping, and certain close neighbors and 2 abutting neighbors have indicated no objection. We don't think there's, going through the criteria, I'll get there in a second and then I'll wrap up. I don't need to go on things. It's respectfully submitted that the conditioning of this structure will not cause, it would be impossible for it to cause any undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. As mentioned in Mike's affidavit, the applicant closed on the property in reliance on discussions with planning board that the proposed garage could be heated air conditioned as proposed. Now, I understand, the tension between what's utilitarian, but essentially what we were trying to do was map Reed's email. And then a building permit was obtained to commence construction of the property as expeditiously as possible. And we tried to amend it, as we had told the building department we were going to include the HVAC.
Mr. Bent, do you have any new points that you want to make?
Yeah, I'll be quick.
Thank you.
Sorry. We talked about, I think I talked about that one case, 175 Mohawk, a case that I handled. And because there were errors made back and forth in conversations between the building department, we have the actual language in that case. Let me read it. This is a case from the Supreme Court. Building department made an error or errors which contributed to the construction of the non-compliant structures. So, and this was one of the things that that court, this Town of Southampton Zoning Board of Appeals, used in its calculus as to whether or not it was appropriate to grant a variance. It wasn't an interpretation case, but it's a variance case, and it goes against any of the bad faith. But just quickly going through the standards, using the criteria. The largest criteria in terms of the weight is impact on the neighborhood. Terry Rice in his commentaries, the village law and the town law say you have these criteria, but the really they don't all have the same weight. Character of the neighborhood is clearly the most important. And we submit that the letter of support demonstrate the lack of impact. And again, it's also hard to fathom what negative impact mere heat and air conditioning could have in terms of this committed structure. The negatives actually show that there is no negative impact. What do I mean by negatives? There's no increase in residential density, no cooking, no sleeping, no water use. So those are actually very positive and show no impact. This is not a substantial request, reduced to its essentials. This is a request for heating and air conditioning in garages. We will covenant will not be capable of cooking, sleeping, and will covenant against that. There's no adverse impacts on the environmental conditions. Quite the contrary, the lack of water, wastewater system, and no increase in density is a positive impact. And of course, it's a type 2 action. There's really no other way to achieve the benefit sought than the relief. And then the last criteria is it self-created? The applicant should try to do their homework prior to closing on the property. The building department, at least for time, agreed the structure could be heated and cooled. Even if it's self-created, this is not determinative, and we don't see that there's any issue of bad faith here. We're here asking for variance relief if you don't agree with the interpretation. And I simply see no negative impact. It's not a request for habitable space. The impact on the land, the neighborhood is, given the fact that this is already built and permitted, is, I think, is hard to argue that there would be any impact. But I stand ready to answer any questions, and I thank you for my somewhat lengthy interpretation, but there's a lot on the line from Mr. Tropen, so I wanted to make sure that I explained it fully.
So I do have two questions.
Sure.
The first one is, you're here for AC heating, correct?
Correct.
Do you have a mechanical plan showing that? Where are the condenser units going? What type of heat's going in there? Where's the mechanical room going?
The contractors here, we saw those.
The architect, I'm not the,
Well, you're gonna explain it that way.
I don't have the drawing, and I don't know.
We will absolutely, we're gonna need,
Those were submitted, I believe.
I don't see them. Apologies if they have been, but
Just your name? Michael Shiano from Interstar Interest Associates on behalf of the applicant. The turn down letter that we prepared for this was based on a survey that identified where the AC units would be going. They would be located on the immediately on the northwest side of the building. They comply with all of the setbacks, and they are properly screened from the street.
I think Belly.
I just want to make sure,
and
I want to make sure that in our ZBA application, that we have a copy of that. Apologies if I overlooked it, but I just want to make sure.
It's actually on the survey that
Approach and show the.
Yeah, that'd be great.
here, AC units are right there.
And then what type of you see it here?
They would be heat pumps, so
You usually have a
no.
plan for that, like a document that shows all the plans for heating and air conditioning?
Because it is a heat pump, they'd be attached to the outside of the building and not, so there's not a separate room that is required for them. I had
So
conversations with so there's those condensers,
Yep.
which are the conditioning units, and then they would just be the devices on the outside of the building that then do the heating and cooling. So they don't require
You
any
have the mini splits?
mini splits,
Okay.
correct, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't, and there was nothing about the mini splits or anything, so I had no picture of how the whole thing was going to work together.
Of course, yes.
I wanted to make sure that there's no radiant heat going in there, there's no, and then as far as mechanical storage for the heating and air conditioning system, will there be anything inside in any of these storage areas?
No, those are intended to be storage for storage.
Okay.
There is no proposed mechanical space within the building
Nothing.
for the heating and cooling aspects.
Okay, I know, I
And the
think,
floor plans we gave in this evening are the floor plans that are on file with the building department, showing exactly what's in the building.
okay, great, thank you very much.
Which also would have been the same ones that we reviewed in order to tell us.
Why don't you keep it?
I'm
You're making notes.
I'm gonna make sure that this is actually in our packet, but I'll double check that, thank you.
No.
And then my second question was, so this is, for car storage and all these antique cars. How do these cars get serviced? Do mechanics come and service it? Do they get taken away?
Perhaps I can answer that.
Just state your name again for the record.
Kind of sure. The cars will be driven off island because they're classic Porsches, older cars. There are no resources on the island to take care of them. So one by one, they're driven as needed for service.
So there's going to be no servicing of these vehicles taking place in that
Washing of them, but no, up beyond.
washing of them?
Yeah, like,
How are you washing them without?
well, there's
At the house,
at the main house, there'll be a driveway and you
So you would drive the car from the building to the house and use that?
clean it off as needed, from time to time.
Okay, all right.
And
Thank you.
are there any plans to entertain in the space?
No.
Okay.
The floor plan is chock full of cars.
We were in there and it looks like a beautiful entertainment space.
Can I address that?
Yes,
If I may?
yes.
Yes, so for sure, the space is beautiful. I saw it, over the last couple of days. It came out very well. You asked about post and beam, and one of the reasons we chose post and beam is while it looks very, very beautiful, it also is the least expensive way to erect that structure. Or building cost per foot was frankly the main consideration of going to a post and beam Vermont, type of construction technique. And in terms of the floor, yes, it's a classic car collection. I wanted the floor to look nice, but I have no intention whatsoever of entertaining there.
Thank you.
And it keeps the floor real clean, keeps the cars clean. Right, Mr. Tobin?
Exactly. I mean, it's, it is one of these things where I happen to be in love with classic cars. And, I want to be able to drive them and I want to be able to, maintain them. But they're not for, it's really not for me to show them to other people or any of that sort of thing. It's not my style.
It's your hobby.
Excuse me?
Your hobby.
It is a hobby indeed, a passion.
Approximately how many cars will go in the barn?
Perhaps 15.
It's a shame that you can't have a sink in there if you want to pull a dipstick on your car working in your own garage and you want to wash your hands afterwards, that you can't even do it.
Well, it's a compromise that I was willing to make because I understand I got a pretty lengthy conversation with InterScience before I purchased the property about what I could and couldn't do, and it was a compromise I was willing to do.
And that was a hard conversation.
Sure.
I said, we've got to go to this board and try to make sure that they don't think this is a Trojan horse. So you got to do everything, condition the heck out of it, and the way it's constructed, so that it's going to be storage. Because, it wouldn't be the first time that somebody, not Mr. Tropin, but on the East End, had a building permit to do something with the structure and did something else. So what we tried to do is make the construction of it such a way that the law can't be broken.
I believe there were 24 bays for vehicles. Was that correct in our visit to?
I never thought of it in terms of bays.
Oh, okay. On site, that was the term that they had used. So there's room for 24 vehicles?
Perhaps.
Okay,
But, basically the intent is not to have them on top of each other.
right, okay, thank you.
And I think the nice thing about it, I have to say, I know you're not an architectural review board, but it really, it looks like, it doesn't look like a house. It looks like sort of an agricultural / storage / garage building. The lights, the windows on the top are only to let in ambient light. It looks like the typical garage, the barns, it's not a barn, it's a garage, but they have, there's no windows in the sidewalls. So I think it's pretty unique and pretty nice. It's nice for the neighborhood. Not that you're an ARB, but it's nice in terms of impact on the neighborhood. I think it's a positive impact.
In my own words, what I would say is this. This property is very large. And I'm very sensitive, having been on this island for a very long time, that I was not going to buy this property unless I had a conversation with the town first about what I wanted to do. And moreover, I'm very sensitive to the fact that the property is pretty close to the well of the town.
Whalestown, yeah.
Well,
Yes, yeah.
and at night, that's not a particularly wonderful thing to be so close to because it has a lot of lights and so on and so forth. And so my intent has always been to screen out, both for my neighbor's point of view, so they're not going to see anything on the property, but also I wouldn't want to see the lights of the whale's tail because they're going to find it attractive.
Your grandkids are gonna go.
As my kids did. But anyway, happy to answer any other questions you have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone-
Thank you, Mr. Copeland.
You're welcome.
So I think, Mr. Bennett, I still would like to see some sort of mechanical plan with the mini splits and what that's going to look like.
Okay.
All right, I
Is there a
think,
way we could, is there,
oh, yeah.
is there a way we could make that a written submission, subject to what anybody else has to say?
We need to continue on with the hearing, but
That's a premature request.
it's premature request, yes. I just want to make it clear that that is something that the board is going to be looking for from the applicant.
Understood.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Who else, anyone in the audience would like to come forward and about this application?
I'm not a lawyer or a public speaker. We don't. I'm Jeffrey Hetman. We are the property immediately abutting the garage, 33 feet from the garage, right here on your maps. And I just wanted to respond to the question number 1 about will the granting the variance have any detrimental effect to the properties nearby. And it seems like there are plenty of people who are not nearby, but we are right there. It looms over us. We are a 1,500 square foot house on top and being loomed over by an 8,000 square foot structure in very close proximity. And what do I want to say? To properly condition an 8,000 square foot space year-round likely means that several large units will be running 24/7, 365 days of the year. The noise and vibration from such unit, it will be constant and unremitting, especially at night in proximity to sleeping areas. Added to the construction noise of this past year, and I'm sure for the next year, this will most definitely be a detriment to our property and our persons. The solution to this, should the board grant a variance, is to condition such approval on moving the units, the air conditioning units that you were just speaking about, to the gatehouse side or front of the garage with soundproofing mitigation. The air conditioning units in 1 point type, half a point type, are right next to our side of the property, on the back, in the northwest corner, right next to us.
We don't have a problem with moving this. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, sorry, I'll wait, I apologize.
And since it was brought up, you have noted, the applicant has noted that they provided a 75-foot setback from Ram Island Road in the front, which is the back of the building. But we only got a 33-foot setback on the side. So the 30 to 50-foot buffer of trees are for the cars that drive down the street and don't stay there 24/7. So we have a line of trees we would like to be increased in depth and length to cover the property. Because it is a large structure. It's way higher than our building. It looms over every aspect of our house. And we would like to request that if you do go forward with this variance, that landscaping be added. We are unsure about what happens with fencing. That's a question my husband has some questions. And regarding to the question number 2, we would, regarding the limiting use of the garage farm, if the appeal is granted, we are in full support of upholding a covenant prohibiting the use for sleeping, cooking, and bathrooms. We accept that the building is there. We don't dispute that they have every legal right to do what they've been doing, that it's a lovely building, et cetera. It's the scale and scope. And if you looked at it from our perspective, not as a lawyer, not as anything else, it's overwhelming and upsetting, as you can see, I'm upset. We would like to know that there's the lighting is not shining on our house, that dark sky laws are respected, and that any cameras that are on the property are not facing our house, recording anything that our grandchildren, tiny little grandchildren, are doing in our yard, and that it feels like another invasion, if that's true, or if it ever comes to pass. So those are our requests to this board for this moment, and I'm not sure if I have time for questions, but somebody just has to take this on.
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, so just so you know,
State your name, please.
Jeff Heckman, I'm the next door neighbor, 6 Ram Island Road. I reached out to the owners last February. I had one conversation with Kate. It's regarding the fencing. As my wife just mentioned, that it's a picket fence. It's been falling down on our property. It's their fence. They should fix it. I've been using basically chewing gum and baling wire to fix it. It's not my fence. If the deer come through there, we don't want the deer. The deer knock down our beehives in the back. So I want to get that addressed as part of this process. I don't know how you guys work in terms of, we have other questions and concerns. Lynn, you brought up the lighting. That's a big issue for us because on the 2 corners that face our property, there's electrical conduits for, lighting. And I don't want that lighting shining into my bedroom all night long. I want the dark skies.
Yeah, they do have to be dark skies compliant
Okay, but
according to,
That's you here and I now. 6 months from now, who's gonna enforce that, right?
that's not
I know,
in front of
but this is
us
my,
right
we need dialogue here, we need to have some conversations. Surveillance cameras, Julie mentioned, are important to us. We have grandkids. We don't need to have them photographed. And I just want to double check in terms of this plumbing issue. I find it odd that there's no water to wash cars. I don't understand that, but thank you for clarifying there's no water. But you mentioned, I think it was Lynn, who said there's storage for parts upstairs. So there will be mechanical things going on with these cars in the shop, I'm assuming. Is that
Well, I think
right?
I think as he explained, so when you have vintage cars, a lot of them have been modified. And when you purchase that car, along with that purchase comes the original parts pre-modification. So the car doesn't lose its value because it still has its original parts.
Right, but what I'm asking.
So I don't think that, from what I'm gathering, is those parts aren't being installed or swapped in that bay.
No.
They just have the original parts.
So there's no hydraulic lifts, there's no pneumatic.
It's not in our repair shop, or maintenance shop.
Okay, okay. Let's see what else. I'm glad that you've seen the house. I wish you had seen it from our property because you didn't get a good feel for it. And I invite you to come over to 6 Ram Island Road and take a look for yourself. I think it's important before you make a decision. And I guess my last point is, I don't know how you guys work or how you arrive at a decision, but we still have some other questions about this. I think we've given the applicant a fair and reasonable alternative to move back heating and air conditioning to the front. I'd also want that to be covered with soundproofing. And I want to make sure if there are generators for these machines, okay, that those are also covered and in the front of the house by the gatehouse. Okay?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I actually, I would like to invite Mr. Bennett up, thank you, to address some of these concerns.
That'd be great.
You know,
Would
would you be willing to move them?
Relocate the HVAC system on the opposite side of the two folks who just spoke. That's not a problem. We'll do what we need to do that. So we will relocate them so that they're not on their side. We'll adhere, of course, to dark sky requirements. We will place no, what do we have? We'll place no. Cameras, looking into the, you can put these as conditions to the approval, that's fine with us, because just want to be a good neighbor. So dark sky, no cameras looking into the neighbor's property, I certainly wouldn't want that. And I respect that request. We'll move the HVAC over to the opposite side, and we'll fix the picket fence.
And will you increase the foliage along that property line?
Yes, we will increase the foliage on that property line. We'll, that can be a condition as well.
What sort of lighting? Are there receptacles on that side? Did you envision some certain lighting over there on that side of the home?
There's no light.
No lighting on that side? Okay, thank you.
And we can increase, what's the depth of that?
It's 33 feet between their property lines.
It's 33 feet between the property line and the building. And what is the current proposed screening depth, if you know?
Oh, on that side?
Yes.
It's about 15.
Excuse me?
It's about 15.
15 feet, yeah, I gotta have for firematics, I can't put, this way up.
Hold on.
No, if I will.
You can't talk among
you can't talk
yourselves.
yeah.
You just have to address the,
Only one person can address the board at a time.
We're gonna give them a number.
Yeah.
Give the board a number. So
And you guys can figure that out and submit plans to us so that we can review them.
No, it's 15 feet now, we'll increase it to 22 feet. I can't have it, it creates a real firematics problem if it's right on top of the building. So.
And are there any plans for a generator for this building?
I don't know, but if the generator is going to be there, it'll be on the opposite side of the building.
Okay.
that would have to be part of the.
That would have to be part of of conditions.
Sure.
Okay.
Fine, absolutely. You can condition this in any way you want to make sure that that the impacts that the neighbors are concerned about are alleviated. We're fine with that. We really are fine.
If I,
Go ahead.
so rather than encumber any determination with a laundry list of conditions, there may be certain covenants that are absolute, but in terms of the concessions that you're referring to now,
You want to see it on the plan?
yes, so that rather than this be all conditioned, the single condition would be that it's in compliance with the plans as submitted, and you'll submit a plan that shows all of these changes.
Done,
Including a generator, because we haven't
Done.
spoken of that. Thank you.
done, absolutely, absolutely. No argument at all.
Okay, great, thank you.
I don't want, I can understand why these concerns are there, but we can take care of everyone.
You know, we absolutely need a plan so that we can approve
And we'll
the
have that.
plan. Great. Okay. Okay, any other audience members? Please.
Evening, I'm Richard O'Halloran, I'm a neighbor next to Jeff and Julie, who just gave you their comments. And I wanted to support their request for relief and support their observations. And I also wanted to say the definition of a garage versus a structure here, I think, is a significant issue. And because I heard a lot tonight that I didn't know coming here. So I'll just leave it, that that's an important issue that the board should be very confident on. It certainly looks like a museum to me. And from the sounds of it, it's closer to a museum, I think, than a garage. I don't know if we have any air-conditioned garages on Ram Island Road right now. Most of those houses have no garages. It certainly is a change for a neighborhood. Not that that's any detriment at all to us. I also have, I mentioned to John Bennett earlier this evening, in the month of February, there are 3 weeks of pounding of the earth right in front of the garage. I walked over there at one point and spoke to the contractors. They said they were trying to level the road into the garage. It had to be done by May 1 or May 30th, and that they were breaking through the frozen earth. I spoke to Gene Shepard around the corner, another neighbor, and recently, and he said, yeah, the earth is probably, in mid of February, it was probably 2 feet thick of frost. They showed me a dent in the bucket loader that had been caused by this pounding of the earth. My house was shaking, and I'm 2 houses down. And they also showed me a pile of boulders that were actually frozen earth. I then noticed a crack in my foundation, which I don't think was there before this winter. I don't know if that caused it or not. And last thing, I'm not going to, I'm here as a neighbor, not as a lawyer. I don't know. But I do want to say I don't see any hardship here. I don't know if that's an issue. I think there's a lawful remedy. I do appreciate the applicant, Mr. Chopin, is following the process, following the law here, coming to the Board of Appeals. Not everybody does that, shelter around. And, but I do think that for part of this request variance, there's a remedy with doing this 3 or 4 lot subdivision that would solve the conditioning problem. That's all, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other audience members? Anybody in Zoom wish to speak? Christina, do we have anybody? I think we have a hand raised in Zoom. No? Oh.
No, that's a mouse.
Oh. Okay, Mr. Bennett, yes.
Yeah, if I may, I haven't asked Mr. Trope this, but I'm sure he will. If there's some concern, was there some concern about damage to your structures, Mr. O'Halloran? Because if that's the case, we can, it's not something that you.
Right, that's something that you guys can have a private
That's
conversation
what
out.
I'm
That's,
sure
yes, no,
represent
that's,
for
yeah,
low-
no, that's, yeah, yeah.
So my humble request would be, I think you've heard from neighbors, they've given their concerns. We've offered all of these conditions, and council has properly stated that those should be on a plan, as have you. And I would humbly request that you close the meeting, but for written submissions that will demonstrate the plan, the conditions to your, as stated.
I think at this point, I do want to keep it open because I think it's important for us to come together, look at the plans in case we have any questions or need to have a discussion about it.
Very good. So that's, of course, your product.
In that light, is there anybody else who would like to speak on this application? Okay. So if not, Tim, help me with the language here. We're going to adjourn. And we do have a full docket for April, so it's going to be adjourned to the May 27th hearing.
Possibility, given the fact that we're trying to move this process to fruition. I think all you're going to be is talking about whether or not these documents, these plans that were submitted meet your satisfaction. That could probably happen. You probably come to a determination well before that meeting. I would again humbly request that your full docket aside, that would be on that document.
We do have applications already scheduled for April, so.
But again, I'm not going to be, it's not going to be anywhere near the amount of time. It's just really going to be handing submissions to you, and you'll know beforehand whether or not they meet your requirements, it's gonna be a 3 or 4 minute conversation, 5 minute conversation.
You can adjourn tonight, and, the setting of the date that it returns on, it's a matter of the agenda for those upcoming meetings.
So we can do our best to make it for April, but right now it's May.
Right, or not specify either way, but yes, do your best.
We do need to have a date, though, for the submission, though.
Well, we know how the submissions within.
So if,
If you were to be kind and give us this short.
It's not about being kind, we have other.
We just have other applications
documents.
already.
Excuse my rhetoric, I don't mean to be, I just, if there was the possibility of discussing them on the April session, how much in advance of that would you like? 2 weeks before the session?
Yeah, so I would say we would like them by April 10th,
You'll have them by April 10th.
but that's still not,
Before then.
oh, the 8th, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Tell me when you want them, and we'll get them to you. I mean,
But that doesn't mean that we're
I
gonna
understand.
put you on April.
We'll do our best. Okay,
We'll
we need
do
to
our
move
best,
on.
but yeah.
Thank you.
okay, so you're going to adjourn it to possible April date, but perhaps May?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, and we'll get the documents to you by April 8th.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for your consideration. Thank you.
It's gonna take a minute to reset here.
No vodka for me.
It's a good pour, right?
Yeah, it is. Oxygen.
These are so big.
You want to do yours?
That's on my plan. You know.
You're good. So you can make sure you can proceed. Thank you.
We're just gonna give a few more minutes for members to come back here.
Water.
Yeah, it's a type of,
Oh, yes.
environmental.
Oh,
So, get the water off the property.
yeah, yes. I think your site plan is better than I do. Do you want to turn this or do you like it?
I'll be here in a minute. Washing his hands. I told my wife it's gonna be a late night.
We haven't had late nights in a while.
No, we haven't.
No.
It was that 15-minute. That's what you like.
He'd like to hear himself talk, Mr.
Yes.
Yeah, next month we have it's quite a bit, right?
3 or 4?
Three. There's 4.
Do we have any for May yet, potentially, or you wouldn't?
Church said at Kokoli. Kokor.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Sweet. Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah, they're really something.
No,
Yeah, the Cocos.
I like the look of it from the other, like, from the ones that were here before. Tom got lost.
You gotta sell some.
Yes, sir.
She's doing a site visit.
Last night I couldn't make it my show. My show came on at 9 o'clock.
Oh.
I fell asleep at 10 after 9.
Get together.
Woke up when it went right off.
You want to?
Zero jungle tree. Okay, we are back. We're going to continue with our other application. 44 Garden Space Drive. Christina, can you read the notice?
Legal notice.
A hearing on the application of Alphanest LLC, owner of 44 Gardens Bay Drive, Shelter Island, New York, which is located in Zone AA within Nearshore Overlay District and is more specifically described on the Suffolk County Tax Map as 700-1-2-73.3. The applicant seeks relief from the requirements of Town Code Section 133-6B6 to permit proposed construction of a primary dwelling, pool house, barn, and conditioned storage building, resulting in a total of 10,081 SFLA, where 5,999 is allowed.
Thank you. Okay, who's here to present?
Hey, good evening, Matthew Sherman, Sherman Engineering Consulting, here on behalf of the applicant, Alphanest. We've got several members of the design team here in person tonight, as well as some on Zoom. Depending on questions that the board has and various things, we'll different members of the team will chime in as needed to fill in gaps of information. I'll give you a real quick background to this project, and then describe the project, describe the property, and then hand it over to the architect, who will describe the buildings, what the design interest is, what the goals were for the property owner. This property, excuse me, this project really first started as far as town permitting was concerned in late 2022. Early 2023, we were in front of the town board for a special permit for a version of this project that was substantially similar to the one in front of you now. Some minor tweaks to a couple of the buildings, but the square footage was was fairly close to the same as what we're looking for right now, that just over 10,000 square foot living area. One thing to clarify just right out of the gate is our proposed plans are for 10,115 square foot living area. There was a typo on the building department letter of denial, which I think then got rolled over into the notice. So the notice at 10,018 square feet.
81.
10,081 they had. Yeah, and we were at 10,115.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not a big difference, but just want to make sure that that was clear. In 2023, when we went to the town board for a special permit, we had our hearing. The town board at the time had asked for some additional information on the vegetation plan, some irrigation information, things along those lines. The hearing had been closed. Gave them the information, they discussed it during a town board work session or a couple of work sessions, and they were poised to vote on it for a special permit. At that time, the town put in the moratoriums on special permits. So the property owner decided rather than fight the system or cause any issues, they would let the dust settle. However it happened, if it came to the ZBA, we would come to the ZBA. If the town board had done a proportionality provision in the town code, which is what we were expecting them to do, we would have gone that route. Either way, however the chips fell, that's what we would respond to, which is what brings us here tonight now. So we waited a while, we got the town, put this over to the zoning board's jurisdiction. So now we're applying for a variance for essentially a very similar, essentially the same project as what was in front of the special permit review previously. There were no significant issues raised by the town board. They, again, as I said, they asked for some clarifying information on the vegetation and on the irrigation. We provided that, and then we moved on.
Was the size not an issue with the town?
They didn't get to the point that they could vote on it, but during
Right.
the hearing, they didn't say anything, and during the work session, they didn't say anything.
Okay.
It's important too to remember, or to focus on the idea, and Mr. Bennett had said it during the previous hearing. This application was on the heels of 42 Gardner's Bay Drive immediately next door. Very similar size property, that's 6.5 acres with a half acre of wetlands. This is 6 acres. We're at just under 11,000 square feet, or just over 10,000 square feet, at 10,115. They were, I think, at about 11,000 and change, I believe. I've got the number in my presentation here in a second. So the projects were very, very similar one to the other, and the town board had just approved the other one. So that was a good indication that they wouldn't have been hostile toward this application. If I could share my screen, I'll put up a PowerPoint. And I've got just a handful of slides, again, just to kind of give you an idea of the property and what its overall characteristics are. All right, so this is the existing site. It's a little hard to see on this screen with the white background, but the Gardner's Bay is to the right-hand side, over here to the east. Gardner's Bay Drive, the left-hand side, on the west. As you come into the property, there's an existing tennis court. There's several outbuildings right in the middle of the property, right in this area here. And then just to the east of those, you've got the existing dwelling. The high point on the property kind of runs right along where that existing dwelling is right now. And then as you head further to the east, we've got a swimming pool and a pool house. The pool house has just been constructed, and the swimming pool has just been reconstructed. That's a permit that is, we're really at a spot there where we could close out the permit, but we're holding off because depending on what happens with the ZBA and the variance, we're gonna have to modify the health department approval, and no sense in closing out the health department approval for the pool house if we're just gonna turn around and put it back into play for the main building. So the pool house, the pool, the patio and things around that are all permitted, and we're basically at the 11th hour on that project. We're in AA zone, so down here on the roadside, we've got a 50-foot front yard setback. We've got a 30-foot side yard setback for principal structures and any accessory buildings that have living space, 2 stories, things along those lines. And we've got a 15-foot side yard setback for things like the tennis court, patios, 1-story accessory buildings with no living space, outbuildings, things along those lines. This is a 100-foot wetland setback that runs right along here, between the house and the harbor, or excuse me, in the bay. So everything is substantially landward of that 100-foot setback, so there's no wetlands issues on this site as far as the town is concerned. And we've got a DEC letter of non-jurisdiction for everything landward of the top of bluff. And you can see that in this drawing where these contour lines get real tight together, and it's like a thick gray line. That's the bluff. On the western end of that is the top of bluff, and that's where that's where the DEC jurisdiction stops. So what we're proposing, and this is a little bit hard to see again, unfortunately, because of the screen, and I'll give you a better version of it now, or in just a second. But what I want to show you here is the proposed site and the existing site are very, very similar to one another. Again, the swimming pool, the pool and pool house are there. The tennis court stays. One thing I didn't mention a second ago is there's an existing cottage. Yep. Bunch, you're nodding your head like you're familiar with that cottage.
I know the property very well.
It was moved to the site in 1963 from Gardner Farm. And one of the things that we want to do is maintain that cottage to as great an extent as possible. And the plan right now is to keep it as living space, but to remove the plumbing from it, because we've got, as an accessory building with sleeping, we've got the pool house. The cottage used to be, up until we built the pool house, the cottage was its own standalone accessory dwelling. So you had a nearshore overlay property with 2 dwellings on it, the main house and the accessory dwelling. In order to do the pool house with sleeping, we can only have 1 building with sleeping, accessory building with sleeping, excuse me. So we took the plumbing out of that building, put it into the pool house, and now we've got the main house and then the accessory sleeping building, which is the pool house building. And we'll get to that in a second, because it's an important distinction to what the application is currently asking for, and something that we would like the board to consider. But right now, there's also there's a sports court right here that's within the side yard setback. That's going to be coming out.
You're going to remove that
that
basketball court?
Yep, exactly, yep.
That was my question.
Yep, there's a couple of sheds. One shed is going to stay in its current location, another shed is going to move just down to the southwest a little bit from where its current location is. We've got a existing garage that's going to remain, and we've got a new garage barn maintenance building that's going to be down here on the cursor on the west side, just southwest of the tennis court. So right in the middle of the property, but near the road. That building is going to have a half a bath, because we can't have a full bath. Having a full bath, the town would consider it accessory sleeping. So we've got a half a bath that we're looking to put into that. And it's really more as a convenience for the people who are working on the property. As you come back up here into the main part of the property, the new house is going to be basically over top of the footprint of the existing house. And this is just a cleaned up version, so you can see the way the driveway comes in, it loops around. You've got that shed that's being relocated is coming to right here. The other shed stays, the existing garage stays, and this is the new house. So everything is well within all of the zoning setbacks. Again, this is a 6-acre lot, 5.9 and change, so there's plenty of room to have these new improvements without having to get close to any of the property lines or any of the minimum setbacks. When we did the application for the special permit, at that level, you have to get the health department approval first before you can go for a special permit. When we're going for a ZBA approval in front of your board, we have to get that first before we can get the health department approval. So we're kind of a little bit, we're inverting the process a little bit at this point. As I said, we had that health department approval. We installed the system for the pool house. We've got a new IA system for the main house, and we've got a new IA system for that maintenance barn that's up by the tennis court. what we would be looking to do, since we've got that system going in for the maintenance barn, is to be able to put a toilet and sink in the cottage that we removed all the plumbing from. We don't want to put in a shower because, again, that would make it accessory sleeping, but they want to use it as a gym or some function like that. So we don't want to have to cross the line. We don't want it to cross the line to be something that would create an issue with the town code, but along the same lines as that maintenance building, we would want to just have a convenience for the people who are using that building. That's what we've got as far as our overall site is concerned. I'm going to hand it over to the architect now. If he'll go into details on the proposed construction. If you've got any questions for me about the site, I'll be more than happy to answer them now or later.
I'm sorry, I ran out of pen ink. What were you talking about putting into the old cottage?
Just a toilet and a
Just a
sink.
toilet and a sink.
Yeah, half bath, yeah. Yeah, we've done that on several applications, not necessarily ones that have come to the ZBA, but ones that have gone, to the building department to get a sign off. And historically, they didn't make that differentiation between a full bath and a half bath. Several years ago, the town felt, hey, if you got a shower in there, then it kind of leans it, pushes it to the area of being a convenience for sleeping. Let's remove the temptation, just do a half bath. So it's a convenience. It's not something that someone will really be using as a dwelling unit or even as a part-time dwelling unit.
And this is for the structure closest to the entrance?
That we've got, the building department's already signed off on that.
Yes to the half bath
It would
there.
be for the cottage. That existing cottage, which is right down here on that south side, about a third of the way down.
Which you said you removed the plumbing from.
Yeah, yeah.
So now you just want to add the plumbing for
For
a half bath and.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was a full cottage. There was a kitchen, there was full
We're
bathroom.
upside down.
So, on the
Sorry.
north side, yeah.
Yeah.
Go up, yeah.
And what's the size of that cottage? Do you know?
Yeah, total square footage of it is 1,241 square feet. It's 2 floors. First floor is 668, second floor is 573.
Okay, so,
They got.
so you want to put in, sorry, now that we know what structure
Yeah,
we're looking
absolutely.
at, you want to put a half bath there as well?
Yep. And actually, I'll go down to this. This is the cottage. This is an architectural rendering of what the cottage looks like. It's a great little building. One of the things that has traveled through this entire process is the owner's desire to try and keep this building and keep it as close to its current state as possible. It's just, it's kind of like it's a little piece of island fabric. And this is the thing from 1963. It shows the cottage going down the road on the back of a flatbed, and where it came from on Gardner's Farm, and then as it got to this site. So this is from Hay Beach Association. There's a pretty good story to this property.
Yeah, my father pulled across lots with a bulldozer.
Yeah, and I knew it. I figured you did.
Of course you did.
I think what were you, 15 years old at the time? I figured.
No, I was older than that.
You were older? I was giving you the.
No, it was I'll give you one of the whole story. My relative owned that, Sylvester Prime.
Yep.
He owned a whole Hay Beach.
Yeah.
And he put that house, built the house that was on Corbett's Lane and Manhattan Road. Duplicated, that was the cook's quarters for that main house on Corbett's Lane.
This cottage was the cook's
Yes.
quarters? Okay.
And Billy Hannaberry lived in that house for quite a few years as a policeman.
Okay.
I can tell you a lot more. We're getting late.
That's a work.
Another time.
Yes.
Yep.
Good evening, my name is Jim Taylor, I'm the architect for the applicant, and if I may share my screen. Let's see if this works. Okay. All right, does that work? All right, okay. So, following on from what Matt just presented, I'll give you some color and some context and maybe just some of the design thinking around this project. Just by way of introduction, I think Matt's covered lots of this, so I won't read the whole thing. I just want to say that our client instructed us to produce a design for this site to enhance its structures and its setting, which they've admired as stewards of the property for the last 7 years. To this end, we propose a renovation and rebuilding program for the site that will maintain or improve the structures to remain, improve the compound with new structures to replace buildings that are not salvageable or at end of life, and to enhance the atmosphere of the surrounding context. I'm going to skip the rest of this because you've heard it before, and it's late. All right, so here's some aerials. Everybody knows where this is. On the left, you can see the little red square, so it's far north end of the island. Cornelius Point is, so the lot faces, on the water side, it faces east. On the right side of my screen, on the left side, it faces to the west to Gardeners Bay Drive. And then in the long direction, so you have about 590 feet from east to west across the whole site, and 5.9 acres, as Matt has already pointed out. This is maybe a more colorful diagram of the site. I can even zoom in. Does that help? Maybe I can't zoom in. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so highlighted in blue are existing structures today. The red line that runs approximately north-south is the high point of the site, so kind of a topographical ridge line. So everything to the right of the red is visible from the water, everything to the left is not. The green circles represent significant and really lovely mature trees, which we've been instructed to keep as best we can. And we've done that in conjunction with the landscape architect, which is Hollander Design. I think they have somebody on the call this evening. So blue is existing. The next slide shows the proposed sort of intermediate stage. So the blue cottage you see at the bottom right, I'm sorry, the pool house at the bottom right of the site. And there's the new pool. Those were actually, when we rebuilt the pool, we rebuilt it, I think, around 10 feet further away from the lot line. So that's been moved into the lot to keep it further away from the neighbors. The cottage, bottom of the screen in the middle here, that's the one Matt was just talking about, that stays. The existing garage building stays in its current location. That's this large blue structure. And then the existing shed right here, the little one right next to it, that will also stay. The red footprint shows existing house to be removed. And the smaller red footprint is an existing sort of industrial storage building, which would be removed. You can see, obviously, it conflicts with our proposed site plan. So that's the one that gets removed and then replaced with the new barn, which is west of the tennis court. Some images for character. Top left is the existing main house. It's a 20th century structure, vaguely traditional in form. It's been added on to, extended, altered, messed around with. It's sort of mildly incoherent, I think. And that's the main thing, obviously, we're doing is replacing this building. The cottage is middle top row. The potting shed that remains is the right side of the top row. And then on the bottom row, the new pool house, which, as Matt says, it's really complete. The middle image is a little fragment of the garage building that we're keeping with a very bizarre but charming Dutch gable dormer window in it, which everybody loves and we plan to keep. And then that storage shed, a kind of industrial structure is bottom right. That's the one we're removing and replacing with barn. So final site plan would look like this, moving from right to left. It's pool house, pool, new house on the site of the old house, then the existing garage that doesn't move, the shed that does not move, the potting shed that does move, and that now sits at the top of a smaller parking area. And you can see from the site plan, we're trying to hold the improved parking surface as far away from the main house as possible. So current driveway makes its way all the way up to the main house. Going forward, the plan is to have an improved surface so that you can drive on it, but the aim is to discourage any traffic from getting past this point in the middle of the site. So that means the FedEx guy, the UPS truck, gets to that point, drops off packages in that little structure, and then turns around and leaves, and you don't end up with them in the middle of the site. Then on the existing cottage we talked about, the basketball court turns into overflow parking if necessary, and then that barn location, exactly where Matt showed it just a few minutes ago, between the tennis court and the road. Just a quick stab at the statistics. Total lot area, 257,000 square feet. The total of all the conditioned space would be 10,115. The next two statistics I'm giving here obviously are not regulated, but I just think it's interesting for context to look at this to show that we're under 4% of conditioned space as a percentage of lot area. I know that's something that doesn't factor here, but it gives you a bit of context to understand what could be done on a lot in the same zone, 80,000 square feet with the maximum area as of right of 6,000 square feet would be 7.5%. That's just an idea of how much bigger the lot is than it would have to be to support this. Some more context pictures. That top left is the view of the property today from the water. So that would be the little pool house you can see on the left, and then those amazing trees, those big mature trees screening the main house completely because it's behind them from the water side. Top right is standing approximately at the main house looking back towards the water view with the tree canopy to your right. I put this one in because there are no leaves on these trees, so you can see the locations of where those mature trees are, and you can see another view of the main house just sticking out there from on the right side. So we would be standing north of the house here looking up from the water side. And then bottom left image shows driveway, mature, evergreen, heavily planted, no view of any buildings from Gardeners Bay Drive. When it came to character of the main house, we were looking at the American shingle style of the mid to late 1880s. Those buildings were particularly attracted to McKinley and White and to Peabody and Stearns and those kinds of architects. Seems like an appropriate architectural style for this kind of property. We, and hopefully our client, liked the very simple roof massing. And in particular, we were drawn to the habit of these architects to have a first floor level roof eaves and then the second floor poking out from the roof with dormers, which helps lessen the overall mass of the building and helps keep it sort of supple and it seems as if it has some kind of relationship with the shape of the lot. Why is this not working? Okay, here we go. Plan of the main house. The red line shows those roof eaves, so that would be the edge of the roof eaves. And then as you look at the structure, you'll see that I think I have a number here. Yeah, only 60% of the roof eaves shapes of the roof mass itself, the footprint of the building, is actually conditioned space. It's really a very simple building. Living room, there's a guest bedroom on the northwest corner here, possibly for an older family member or a parent or a grandparent, because that's on the first floor. And then mudroom, kitchen, and dining room, and a single step in this house. Second floor has an even smaller ratio of conditioned space to the house footprint. That's 48%, because obviously I'm trying to cram all of these bedrooms into a smaller area. And this again, very simple: bedroom 1, bedroom 2, bedroom 3, and then associated bathroom, closets, and secondary space. And then the stair hole, obviously stacking above the ground floor stair hole. Basement space, so toned in brown here is the conditioned basement space, which is included in this calculation, and then everything to the right would be unconditioned, unbuilt, just empty space. The elevations then hew very closely to those models, those precedents we looked at from our favorite architects. So the roof eaves at first floor level. This is standing on the north side of the building, looking south, so the north elevation. So the building's actually very narrow when you look at it from the end, and the massing sort of stacks towards the ridgeline. There's a single chimney on this house, which you can also see in the view from, this is from the west looking east. And so that is, you can see there's that very deep porch that contributes to the sort of overhanging of the roof eaves, and then all the mass of the house. So the conditioned space is pushed way back. Then we show the family wing, so it's at a different angle, so we show it in elevation in a different drawing. Again, deep porches, you can see from the little red arrow which way we're pointing on the bottom right on the screen there. Then the south elevation, very similar thing. It's just it's essentially a porch building with then conditioned space tucked away inside. And then the only elevation that isn't hidden behind porch is actually the land side elevation. So this is what you would see if you drove up and then continued up to the house, and then the water would be beyond. And finally, the family wing, the same. And this I thought would be useful just to show, so the two red lines on my screen, do those show? Yes. Okay, so those are approximately where the lot lines would be. This is from the water. So southern lot line is on the left, northern lot line is on the right. The blue outline on the left is the existing pool house, which is just completed. Those significant trees are very approximately outlined in green. And then the existing blue line right here in the center of the site is existing house, and white is proposed house. So a little bit taller in the main wing, but then the family wing is shorter by 5 feet. So it's going to diminish that family wing off to the left side of the house there. The garage building with its cute Dutch gable is really cool. We will reverse this building so it stays in place. The garage doors are currently on the north side. We'll move them to the south side and then take the windows on the south and move them to the north. So then when you're parking in that building, you're doing it from the south and you're not driving all the way in front of the house just to get into those garage bays. Otherwise, no change to this building. Am I not changing my slide? Oops, went too quick. Okay, back one. Okay, so this is the cottage. I think I just want to add something to what Matt said. We do plan to take off a 20th century addition to this building, so that's highlighted in red. That's a modern porch addition that was put on, I don't know, probably not long after it was moved, in fact, just judging by the age of the windows. So that will come off to restore this building back to a more traditional appearance. And so will this dark brown object, which is it's a pen, and then there's, air conditioning inside there, so that will be removed.
Are you still going to have air conditioning in the building?
Yes, but because this will switch to a heat pump system, we don't need to have that thing right there. We can have it pushed away somewhere, closed in it, so that you can see this building and not have it have your view disrupted. So that red area again in the two plans, that's what gets removed. And then you can see, it's just a very basic 4-square plan and then a stair in the center. This is the proposed new barn that replaces the industrial shed. So double barn doors facing a little parking area there, a little glazed door in the end of the building for a caretaker to get access, and then a window, a couple of windows on each elevation, very simple roof mass. Not very complicated. And then here's the plan. We put some mowing equipment in there just for scale so you can see. And then that convenience bathroom is right here. You can see the little powder room right there is toned in brown just so you can pick up that little piece of area. Then this is my last slide just to show some of the character of the new pool house, which then will take these same details and apply them. This is how we articulate the main house. Pool house is kind of a dry run for that. So those very wide spreading overhanging eaves with a crisp edge. We put in I call this a Yankee gutter. It's a concealed gutter so that we wouldn't have the gutter actually hanging on the edge of the building. So it's an internal gutter. And you can see from the middle image, it's pretty slick. You can barely see it. You can see that little dark line where you get an extra shadow. The cedar shingles, these are Alaskan yellow cedar shingles, so they will go that beautiful sort of, Cape Cod gray color as soon as the tannins leach out, and you can see they're already turning on the roof, and this building's not even a year old. And then on the right side, simple divided light windows. We'll make sure all the panes are the same size. Traditional wood moldings, very straightforward, uncomplicated shingled house. That's it. Thank you. Questions? Go back to that.
Anyone have questions? Bridget?
No. Can I ask what they see?
I think
yeah, we're good, okay. Any generator on site, do we know?
There will be a generator. Let me go back to the slide. Actually, that's okay. So the generator and the condensers will be grouped And they end up into this, yeah, I think you can even see them. If I annotate here, so they end up in a pen right here in the middle of the site, actually not far from where that industrial storage building was. So that gets removed and they end up here. So pretty much as far as you can get from anybody.
Okay, thank you. Just for clarification, I don't know if this is a Matt or a you question. I'm going back to the loop you threw me for the existing cottage and the half bath.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to be clear that that was not in this notice of disapproval.
Square foot living area, yes.
Yes.
So what the variance is for, yes, that's in the notice of disapproval. The only thing that changes is it's still square foot living area, but we want to put a convenience bathroom in.
Okay.
So the bathroom was not, but the thing that the variance for was.
Tim, I'm just gonna ask you quick, is that something that
We can consider.
we can, like, is that something we should consider in this? Because it's changing like, was that plan was not presented to,
The town board.
like, there's different plans in front of us versus what was
For the
submitted?
denial.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think the basis for the denial is not the contents of the room, it's that it adds additional SFLA, which in the aggregate is over the limit.
But isn't that another, like, variance need, though, to have the extra half bath?
that I don't know, because I'm not, again, if that plan was presented to the building department, they would have made that determination. But
Right.
since it wasn't presented to them, I don't know if that's something that we need to consult with them on.
I can ask Reed for a letter detailing that, if that will help. But yeah, the variance was strictly for square foot living area. As I said, not what's inside that square foot living
Right.
area. You're not looking at the number of
Yeah.
bedrooms, the number of bathrooms, you're not looking at any of that. Just, we're at 10,115 square feet. What's in it is important because it adds to the color of the project, but the variance isn't for that. The variance is for the SFLA.
I get
So
that. I'm
we
concerned that we have
we can do a little bit of internal checking.
Okay,
The risk from the applicant standpoint is if that were, you got approved for a variance and that was a trigger for another variance you needed,
you'd be
you'd
back.
get another disapproval when you ask for it.
Again, and part of my concern is that the building department got different plans, and then we're signing off on something different from what they got.
Exactly.
We're trying to
They
have
denied.
the same things go to each department.
Right, yeah. Yeah, we understand. This came out of an internal discussion that we had, because we were thinking about just, leaving that building with no plumbing from the beginning. And then we were talking about, well, what can we use it for? And it just made sense that as a gym or something along those lines. We said, well, you're gonna wanna have a toilet,
Right,
and they could go over to the maintenance building,
yeah.
but that kind of, that doesn't really help or hinder anything. So we figured, all right, let's ask you guys if there's something that we could, ask for at this point. If it becomes a problem, we can take a half step back.
Right,
If
and-
it, I don't think it will, and I can talk to Reed and
I-
double check.
I'm not convinced it will either. I just want to make, like you said, I don't know if we're the board to ask on that.
Yeah, and just technically, you wouldn't be approving the bathroom structures. By granting the variance, you're approving the space.
And I just know, again, especially since this is a variance for, a large, 10,000 square feet, all of a sudden, there's another half bath that's gonna, it's gonna have more water usage. I just want to make sure that we're looking at it holistically.
Absolutely.
Apples to apples.
Yeah.
Apples to apples,
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. And actually, that's something it's a good point that you bring up there about the water usage.
Yeah.
One of the things that we included in this application, which I kind of struggled with, because, whenever you give somebody something that they don't ask for, they're gonna
Yes.
ask for it the next time.
Yes.
What did I do? And but I included the groundwater analysis because we had done it as part of the special permit. And so what I wanted to show was, we did the modeling, we looked at it, we said, all right, this building, based on all of its fixtures and all of its uses, it's going to have a negligible impact on the groundwater, even at the outer edges of the site, more or less once you go beyond the site. The addition of.
That's without the half bath, not that I think it's going to, but that data is without this half bath.
Absolutely. And so what I can do too is, as part of written correspondence, I can provide a modification to that report showing just that. Yeah. Because it will have a very, the very definition of a negligible difference. Yeah.
Yes.
But I certainly understand the point. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I also think along the same lines, the reports are great, and I know that was, something required with the town board. They're a little bit more equipped to handle those large reports. They have a lot of more resources and they can consult. And I think it's, with this size project, it might be beneficial to have us kind of have a consultant also look at that to see what other environmental, to look at the report, do our own environmental analysis and just make sure that we're in alignment.
Yeah, bring Teresa in on it, Teresa Mason. That's who the town board uses. I don't know.
Okay, I'll have
Same person. Yeah.
Ask Christina or
PW Grosser, I know they use that for secret.
Okay. Is that something that the board feels is necessary for this?
Yeah, when I saw the report, I felt a little bit ill-equipped, so I would like more time with it to, ask some questions.
Okay. Those are my questions and points. Anyone else have questions for Matt or Jim? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. We will open it up to audience members. Anyone in the audience want to speak? Then we'll open it up to anyone in Zoom.
Just maybe for Matt, appreciate the comprehensiveness of the presentation, but you might want to just address the variance, right? The amount that you're asking over the limit.
Actually, thank you, because that's why we're here. Basically what happened with this project, as I said, and I'm not going to rehash it all, but we were going through the special permit for the over 6,000 square feet. Obviously, it's a different threshold than for a zoning variance. And looking at this property, and considering whether a variance is justified, it's a 6-acre property. Zoning in this area is 2 acres. So it's 3 times the size of the minimum required lot size. The property next door received an approval. Granted, it was a special permit and not a variance, but they received an approval for a significantly similar type of project with respect to the gross numbers, the actual square foot living area versus the lot size. So it clearly is in harmony with the area. It's clearly in harmony with what the town board felt was an appropriate use for the property right next door. So I think that helps paint the picture that from a town code perspective and a town board perspective, we're not looking for anything unreasonable here. Part of the need, and I'm a big fan that pretty much every variance is the need is self-inflicted. People want to fix their properties, they want to change their properties, they want to do whatever improvements. If you can do it within the confines of the code, fantastic. You can't always do that. So in a case like this, where the project had already gone through very significant design and permitting and oversight when we got the rug pulled out from underneath us, in this case, the variance request, this is not necessarily a self-imposed variance. This was imposed on the fact that we got to the 11th hour of the special permit process that was stopped on us. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, that had the town board decided 2 weeks later to put in the moratorium, the house would be built already. And, so that I think is something to consider. As far as the overall need, one of the things I look at with the square foot living area and the 6,000 square foot limit, my master bedroom might be 150 square feet, just over a 12 by 12 room. Somebody else might have a 20 by 20 master bedroom. That's 400 square feet, over twice the size for the same room. So the idea of the actual size of the building versus its impact on the immediate environment has to be taken into account. So a 6 acre piece of property with a 10,115 square foot living area group of buildings, and remember, that's not just the main building, that includes the pool house, it includes 57 square feet for the bathroom in that maintenance building. So there's lots of different things that are factoring into this. So the actual impact of the project on the property is extremely small. And as Jim had pointed out, you've got like, I think it was a 7% ratio of square foot living area to AA zone properties, and we're at 3.5 or 3.7, something like that. So we're about half of what the code would allow on an A zone piece of property.
In that similar light, would the applicant be okay with putting a type of a deed restriction for any future development or subdevelopment of the property? If we're granting this?
I can ask the property owner. I don't think, that doesn't sound unreasonable to me. And, this is, I think that would be probably taken in the light that it's being asked, but let me get with the property owner and I'll let the board know. Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, depending on what kind of deed restriction it is and what the finer details are, it's, putting on another building, looking for a variance for a square foot living area, again, obviously would be a problem, but, so we would have to discuss that, but yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
Does that help? I mean, I'm sure that doesn't completely answer the question. I get hung up on the want versus need thing, because, how much of everything we do we need? We need a kitchen and a bathroom. That's what we need. But
And it's also tricky. I know the applicant's been through this process already.
Yeah.
They've submitted all this stuff. It is new to this board,
Yeah,
though.
absolutely.
So that's why, we're taking our time to.
I don't know what kind of records the town has, what kind of minutes from their meetings, but I can see if I can dig into that, and it may help, it may not help, if we can give a little color to what their discussions were. Again, different board with a different purpose.
Correct.
But, any information is good information.
We did try to access the site, Lisa and I, earlier in the week, and we did make 2 phone calls, and we had a person exit and re-enter seeing us, but ignored us and didn't allow us on the property. So it would be good if we could
Yeah, if we could
inspect the
actually,
property, yeah.
Absolutely, we can,
Someone there every day.
We can arrange,
So we can arrange for you guys to have access.
yes.
Okay, great. No, they saw us there,
Yeah.
and then we kind of ran after the car, but they chose not to see us, so.
Just kept
We can arrange that.
Okay, great, thank you.
2 crazy people chasing them down the road, and they kept going. Anyway, shoot me a text or give me a call, and I'll be more than happy to help arrange something if that's more convenient, yeah.
Okay,
That would be great.
thank you.
So I think, Matt, I would like to keep it open.
Yeah.
And we're gonna look for you, Matt, for a modification in that report.
Yep.
And then we'll also talk about bringing in someone internally also to just do a quick analysis for the environmental impact as well. Did I miss anything?
Did you want me to reach out to Reed about the bathroom and the cottage? Or did you want to do that? Either way works for me.
Tim, what's the proper channel here?
Yeah, I think we'll do it. Ultimately,
Okay.
yes, I think we should do it. It wouldn't be a new, building permit request to read
Yeah.
on the fly. It would just be our
And-
checking whether
okay.
it's within the scope.
Okay. Okay. Did I miss any item that we need? Anyone?
No, I don't.
Double check me.
I think we covered it pretty close.
And we want to do a site visit.
Yes,
Okay, great.
and if anybody else wants to, just, you reach
Usually
out.
we'll have, if you see one of us, we'll have an ID tag.
Yeah, we can't all go together, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
we're a
only
quorum.
2 of us can go.
2 at a time. Well, 1 at
We
a
go 2 by
time.
2s.
Open sunshine laws, right? Yeah.
So we don't need to vote to adjourn, we can just,
You can do a motion to adjourn.
okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a
So,
motion.
and Matt, we're gonna have to do the May 27th because we're for April.
I know why you're.
We're busy in April.
Okay.
Okay, so now can I, hold on, can I get a motion to adjourn to May 27th hearing?
Yes, I'll make a motion.
All in favor? Okay. Okay, is that okay? No, I know, yeah, I was just adjourning.
And Mr. Prime,
That piece.
all that land from Corbett's Lane, golf course, all right to Dunrock Road, original owner of the place.
Where'd the cottage come from? I didn't know what Gardner's Farm was.
Gardner's Farm, you know where Dinkle's house is?
Yes.
It was, that was Sylvester Prime, Maine.
All right, Punch, we want to close the meeting here.
I thought we made.
No, that was just to adjourn that applicant. All right, can I get a motion to close
Yes.
the meeting? I'll second.
Yes.
All in favor?
All right.